Hello everybody. Welcome back to another session on Python programming. We are discussing concept of strings. In the last two sessions, we had looked at what is strings in Python. We understood that strings in Python are all Unicode characters. You can have them in double quotes, you can have them in triple quotes, you can have them in single quotes. There is no such type as character type when it comes to Python. A string containing a single character is a character in Python. So no special data type called as char, like what we have in most of the other languages. Then we saw the indexing mechanism. We saw mechanism through which we can extract some set of values from a string. The indexing we have seen. We have seen grabbing. We have extracted a range of values from a string. So all those concepts we have seen. In the last session, we looked at some more methods of string class. Today, in the same family, I'm going to explore a few more methods of string class. You may be wondering, why am I spending so much of time on string? There is a strong reason behind it. String is one of the most widely used concepts in any programming language. Almost in every program, some way or the other, you'll have to work with strings. So the more comfortable are you with string, better it is. That's the reason I'm trying to cover up all the kind of operations that we can do with strings. Just a demonstration. We are not seeing the applications as of now. We are not writing programs where these particular concepts are required. We are just trying to understand the concept first, so that wherever it is required, you can go ahead using it. So let me just first give you a demonstration of all possibilities that exist with strings in Python. Then I could ask you some assignments to be solved. So let's jump on to a few more set of functions that we can carry out while you're working with strings. Now there are some set of functions which we had already seen. We'll just quickly touch upon those functions once again. Suppose I have a string which says C is equal to fitness. So if I go on to say print C, it'll print the string fitness, whatever is the string. If I just say C directly, it would have printed fitness, but in quotes. I want more readable output, so I'll say print of C. So it has printed fitness. So I wanted to check, are all characters inside this particular string C, are they alphabets? So in that case, we have a lot of functions which starts with is. So one such function is alphanumeric. So likewise, we also have is alpha. So let's say is alpha first, ALPHA. So when I'm saying is alpha, it says true. That means all the characters inside the string are alphabets. I want to check whether all characters in the string are alphanumeric or not. So if I say is alpha num, it still stays true because it's either alphabet or numbers. So even if my string contains character like 586 or whatever it is, and even if I had checked is alpha num, then also it would have said true because it is alpha or numbers. If my string contained BOND not 7, okay, or whatever it is, and then if I check this alpha num, it will still say true. But in this case, if I had said is alpha, it will say false because now you also have BON, born, but 007 is like not an alphabet. But alpha num has returned its value as true. So we have seen two functions, is alpha num. These are two different functions that we have seen. Suppose your string contains all the special characters like this. Your string contains all the special characters like this. Now if I check is alpha, it says false. If I say is alpha numeric, that also says false. Correct? Then what I can check? I can check whether these are some special characters. But then let's come to special characters later. Suppose my string is 345. Now if I'm checking is alpha, it says true. But then I wanted to check whether it contains only the digits or not. That means all the characters which are present inside this are numbers or not. So can I say is numeric? Okay, it says true. That means all the characters which are present are numeric. So we got answer as true. So we had alphanumeric, alpha as well as numeric. So it will give you a chance to check what characters are present, whether it's alphabetic, whether it's numeric, whether it's alphanumeric, all those options are available. But there is one more option available over here. Suppose when my string is like what we have just now seen, So if I say print C, my string print, oh, it's small case c. So print C, it's for 345. That's a string 345. And I want to check whether it's decimal or not. Now, what is the concept of decimal? So when I say it's decimal or not, so it will return true if all the characters in the string are decimal characters and there is at least one character that is there. What do you mean by that? Let's check it out. Watch it. I have this 345 and I'm going to check, instead of saying numeric, I'm going to say is decimal. If I say decimal, it says true. Okay. If instead of this, I had a slightly different string, like if my C was storing 3.142, that's value of pi. Now, if I say decimal, it says false. Now, what's the problem here? If all characters in the string, okay, whatever are the characters, all the characters which are present inside the string, they should represent some digits. Now, here we had this decimal point as well, which was there, correct? We also had a decimal point. And then if it had a decimal point, which is not a digit, it's a character, but it's not a digit. So it has given us some weird kind of result. So you have to be very careful when you look at these kind of functions which are available. So, and you have to be very clear about the function as well. When and what does it give you? So we saw each decimal. Now let's do one thing. Let's take some characters. Let us print some characters first. Suppose if I write print, and if I write a character like /u 00b2. Now that's a character that is there. And what is this character? Raised to 2. So you say x raised to 2. So that's a raised to 2. So if I wanted to print x raised to 2, I could have printed something like this. So I have a character x, comma, and I could say, comma, sep is equal to nothing. So that x raised to 2. So that's power, that raised to 2. So I want to check whether this raised to 2 is this decimal or not. So what is this? That's a Unicode value for that particular character. So while you are trying to represent a character, every character has a value. That means in the machine, there are no symbols like A, B, C, D. Every character that is present or represented in a computer is internally represented by some code. So that's nothing but the Unicode value for that particular character raised to 00b2. That's the Unicode value for that particular character. Now, to start with Unicode, we just say /u. There is no concept of ASCII over here. The first 256 characters of Unicode are ASCII. And uske aage, there are a lot of other characters which are there. So you will always specify with /u saying, ye jo value hai, that represents a Unicode value, and that too it is in hex. So 00b2 is a hex representation of a number. /u say it's a Unicode value. So Unicode value kya tha? Raised to tha. So likewise, you could have Unicode value for say small queries D, where everything, whatever character you would like to have. So we want to check whether this is decimal or not. Suppose I want to check whether this is decimal or not. So if I say C is equal to, and I represent my Unicode value. So when I represent this Unicode value, for printing it was okay. I could just say /u 00b2 is what I could write. But if I want to assign it to a string, I would rather prefix it with u, saying, oh, it's a Unicode value that I'm giving you. Now, if I want to print this C, it will print raised to. So that's also possible. But I have added u over here just to be extra sure that it will print it correctly. Now I want to check whether this is decimal or not. So now if I'm going to check whether this is decimal or not, Unicode value, it says false. That's not decimal. So now, if all characters in the string are decimal characters, now here we had some characters like U, B, these are not decimal characters. So in that case, it immediately generates an error saying it's false, it's not decimal. So we saw each digit, is decimal, is numeric, is alphanumeric, is what we have seen. In addition to that, there are some special ones. Like suppose C is equal to 345. I want to check whether it's an identifier. Identifier are names that we give to the variables. Like I want to store your age. I can say age is equal to 56. So age over here is an identifier. That identifies number like 56. So in other languages, we call it as a variable. But every variable is nothing but a name given to a location in the memory where the data has been stored. So 56 has been stored somewhere in the memory, and age is referring to the location in the memory where 56 has been stored. So it's an identifier. But there are some rules that are given for naming an identifier. So if you want to give a name to something, it can be name of a function, it can be name of a class, it can be name of a variable, identifier, which will identify something which is stored in the memory. There are rules which are there. So if I create a name and I want to check, is it a valid identifier? So can I have a variable whose name is 234? So I don't know whether 234 is a allowed identifier. Can I give a variable name as 234? Can I say 234 is equal to Anil? That means a variable called as 234, is it allowed or not? Or a function called as 234 is allowed or not? So Python provides you one function called as is identifier. So I could just say print, and I can just say, sorry, I could just say print is identifier. What is identifier? I'll say your variable called as age dot is identifier. But age is a name, so I'll just put in quotes. So I'm checking whether age is a valid identifier. Can I use age as an identifier? It says true, you can use age as an identifier. We have used it. We have given this variable a name as age. So age can be an identifier. That's okay. Suppose if I have a variable called as home, and I want to check whether home can be identifier. So I say a dot is identifier. A has value called as home. It says true. Home can also be an identifier. So can I have a variable whose name starts with underscore? Can I say underscore home? Can that be an identifier? It says true. So I want to check whether 99 underscore home can be an identifier. If I check this, it says false. What does it tell you? Identifier name cannot start with digit. It can start with underscore. It can start with alphabet. It cannot start with underscore. Note कीजिए. So any identifier that we think about, it has to start with an alphabet or an underscore. It cannot start with digit. But is it like I cannot have digit inside an identifier? Suppose if I say underscore home 99. Is this a valid identifier? Yes, it's a valid identifier. That means an identifier can contain alphabets, digits, and underscore. But the first letter has to be underscore or an alphabet, cannot be a digit. Okay, can I have an identifier with a space? Can I say home sweet? And then I print it, it says false. Identifier cannot be two words. The identifier cannot contain embedded spaces. Home space sweet is something not allowed. Or suppose if I said sweet underscore home, that would be okay. So if I say sweet and I put in the underscore, and if I say home, and then I want to check its identifier is true. So you need to be very clear about how you can give a name to an identifier. Or suppose if I say identifier is equal to some variable that I would like to create, I want to check whether it's an identifier. I say its name is for. I want to check it's an identifier. Kehta hai true. A is an identifier. But then if A is an identifier, there's a problem now. Because in Python, there is a keyword also as an for. So is it like for is equal to 56? It says syntax error. It says syntax error because for is a keyword in Python. And my identifier name should not be same as that of a keyword. But it contains all alphabets. So it's saying it's okay. But it's also a keyword. So if I had another identifier like A is equal to while, okay, and I want to check what's the value of A का value while है, I'm checking whether it's an identifier कहता है true है, because identifier के rule क्या कहता था, it has to contain only alphabets or digits or underscore. It should begin with an alphabet or it underscore cannot begin with a digit. So while true कर रहा है, but then while is also a keyword. So you shouldn't be using a keyword because while has its own meaning in Python language. For has its own meaning in Python language. So I also want to check whether it's a keyword or not. So every identifier name should not be a keyword. So there is a function called as is keyword. I'm checking whether it's a keyword. String mein there is nothing as is keyword. But I want to check whether it's a keyword or not. So there is a module called as keyword, which I like to import. I can say import keyword. So if I import keyword, and then if I have this variable A is equal to for, correct? I want to check whether it's an identifier or not. So I can say print. I hope you are noting down. Keyword dot is keyword. Note क्या करो कम से कम कहाँ से आ रहा है ये keyword. It comes from a module called as keyword. So when I'm trying to take it, it says, oh, there is an error. इसमें एक पैरामीटर पास करना होगा. देखो कहता है contains exactly takes one argument, 0 has been given, so it's given a hint. अरे क्या चेक करना चाहते हैं? तो मैं कहता एक कीवर्ड है कि नहीं, मैं चेक करना चाहता हूँ. कहता ट्रू, इट्स अ कीवर्ड. So now if I say a is equal to forever, now there is nothing as forever in Python. If I check it's a keyword, it says false. So whether if you want to check whether it's a given identifier is a keyword or not, don't check for identifier, use is keyword. Is keyword is present in a module called as keyword. So you'll have to first import that particular module. I imported that module somewhere. कहाँ हो गया? Import क्या था? Oh, here itself. I imported the keyword module. Inside this keyword module, there is a function called as is keyword. So keyword.is keyword, and I pass which keyword, which variable name I would like to check whether it's a keyword or not. It will correctly give. For it says it's true, and for forever it says it's false. Forever is not a keyword in Python. Keywords are those words which already has some special meaning in the language that shouldn't be used as an identifier. So if I want to use some name as an identifier, I should first check that it should not be a keyword. And if it's not a keyword, then I can use it as an identifier. In addition to that, there may be a string which is currently empty. ऐसी empty string है. I want to check whether in what style have I written this particular string. So I can just say print whether it's in uppercase, whether it's in title case, all those things we can check. So I say a dot title. Oh no, is title. I can just say is ti is title. So I'm going to check whether it's title or not. So if I have space, तो title तो नहीं है. तो एक में suppose instead of giving a space, I give an empty string था. अभी एक space के साथ string है. I say okay था नहीं है. That's also not in title mode. Then I give a string saying I want to have a cup of tea. T is capital. Okay, that's true. It's an identifier. It's a title. That means the string appears in title mode. Suppose if I say tea, coffee. So T is capital, C is also capital. I say title, it says true. I say tea and coffee. Any guess? Whether it is title mode now, true or false?
True.
True? It says false. Title का मतलब है every word's first letter should be capital. Now tea and coffee were in uppercase, C and T was in uppercase, A was not in uppercase. But suppose if I had given A in uppercase now, tea and coffee, and I had given A in uppercase. Now if I check it, it says true. But there is a slight variation that we could have. I could have just said tea and coffee, and I could have just use ampersand. And if I check title, it still says true. That means all the alphabets, the word ampersand is not taken as a word. But if I have some words, the first letter of every word should be capital. But then what if I had like ampersand, if I had added a digit, something like first item is tea and coffee, and then I check, it will still say true. यानी क्या कह रहा है वो, जो words रहेंगे, one is not a word, ampersand is not a word, तो जो words रहेंगे, हर एक word का पहला letter should be an capital case. So each title is used to check that particular thing out, whether the first letter of every word is capital or not. What about if I had used underscore? तो अगर मैंने यहाँ अंडरस्कोर से स्टार्ट किया होता, अंडरस्कोर टी एंड अंडरस्कोर कॉफी and underscore coffee, is that what did I check for? So let's say it still says true because underscore is not alphabet. It will not be a part of the word. Word is tea and word is coffee. तो हर एक word का पहला letter अगर capital है तो is title is something that can check for those things. Like we also had is upper and is lower. Those things we had seen earlier. So I could just say is upper. कहता है false, ये upper case में नहीं है. For it to be in upper case, I would need to write T something like this. Then it to upper would return true. तो हम लोग कहते हैं is upper true है. तो अगर ऐसा होता है T space coffee, sorry, T space coffee, and I will check uppercase will be true because space will not be considered. All alphabets are in uppercase or not. So likewise over here T and coffee, and is not an alphabet. So C is true. That means all alphabets are in uppercase or not. Likewise, if I'm writing tea and coffee, once again, if I say tea and coffee, or rather I take tea and coffee only as without these digits, I'll take. I have tea and coffee. I could have just said print is lower. No, is lower is not defined. Okay, string mein hai is lower. So I'll have to say a dot. A dot lower. कहता false. A lower case nahi hai, because then T and C were capital. So let us put everything in small case. C also in small case and P also in small case, and then check is that true. That means ampersand, other characters will not matter. All alphabets which are present inside that string, are they in uppercase or small case? Is lower, is upper, is title, all those functions could have been used. So that was a basics about all the functions that start with is. Have you all understood this is version of functions? You should at least have the names of the functions. Monica, where is each title used? Suppose I want to give you a name. Is it appropriate for me to write your name with M small and S small? No. Monica Srivankar, if I write, M should be capital. Narendra Modi, if I write, N should be capital, N should be capital. Okay, so I want to check whether the name has been correct, the sentence has been correctly formed, the names have been correctly written. So I could actually use is title. So every word's first letter is capital or not is what we could check. And these kind of validations are required everywhere. When you accept data from the user, would you not like to format it in the proper way and then store it?
Yes.
Okay. Have you all understood? Okay. What I want you to do is, although I'll be sharing this particular script with you, but even then you should make a note of the functions that we have discussed. जो भी हम लोग function discuss किए जा रहे हैं, you should make a note कि अरे हाँ आज हमने ये देख लिया. We have seen these functions. So we saw a lot of is versions of the function, is digit, is decimal, is alpha, all those things we have seen. Now, there is one advanced function that I plan to discuss next, and that will require in a lot of applications, and that is to do with splitting of the string. So a lot of times it becomes necessary for us to split a string, divide the strings based on some criteria. So let's understand how can you go ahead splitting a string. So if I have to split a string, how can we actually split a string? We had seen find, starts with, end with, those we have seen. Now we'll look into another one very powerful function called as split. Before I go ahead with the demonstration, let me just take you to the note for that split function. So here we go. Let's have a look at split. What does it say? String.split. So it's a method inside a class called a string. So whatever is a string.split, it says separator is none, max split is equal to -1. So separator none, that means what is the basis for splitting the string? So when it says none, that means space can be a basis for splitting a string. Max split -1, यानी जितने maximum split कर सके उतने splits कर लो. So it says returns a list of words in the string using separator as a delimiting string. So I have not given any delimiting string. Max split is given, at most max splits are done. Okay, thus the list will have at most max element, max split plus one element. So अगर max split का value आप 3 देते हो, तो 3 देते हो, तो in that case you will have 4 splits. यानी 4 strings आ जाएंगे. ये देखो, if I have one string, if I have one string, और एक मेरे पास एक string है, और इसको मैंने एक बार split किया, तो उसके 2 बन जाएंगे. और अगर एक string को मैं 2 बार split करता हूँ, तो उसके 3 बन जाएंगे. So whatever number of splits we do, you'll have strings one more than the maximum number of splits that you have. But when we do not give the value of max split and the base default is -1, in that case, जितने maximum splits possible है उतने वो कर लेगा. If max split is not specified or -1, then there is no limit on the number of splits. All possible splits are made. Have a look here. I had Anil, Sachin, Saurav, Rahul. I don't want these names as one string. I want to be split into 4 different names: Anil, Sachin, Saurav, Rahul. So I can just say string.split. So I could split it into number of strings. So let's take the same example, but we'll go ahead with a demonstration on the IDLE, because that will make more sense. We'll immediately get to see the result as to what is happening. So let's jump onto our IDLE to see the result. Here we are. So we'll quickly, there is nothing to clear the IDLE. I can either close the screen and I could start it once again just to have a clear screen. I start with IDLE once again. Here we go.
Can you can you take the command which you have typed before, like in like we do in PowerShell and PowerShell and
Yeah, I
Ubuntu.
can do that. Yeah, no,
It is not happening over here.
it will happen. Definitely, it will happen. Not when the shell has been closed. As long as the shell is running, till that time we'll have it. Like if I say print, and if I say hello, pehla, and then I say print, and I say bye. Okay, and I want to have hello. I can just go up. I can click on this. I can get it. I can go here. I can print on this. I can get it. So ये history थोड़ी देर maintain करेगा. But if I close this shell, it will not maintain the history. It will not maintain the history.
Sir, how did you do it?
Okay, I just went to what. Suppose if I had said 334 plus 6 ऐसा लिखा था और मुझे print by चाहिए था, तो I'll just take my cursor onto that line, click on that line, and I get that. मुझे 34 plus 6 वापस चाहिए था, 6 नहीं 60 चाहिए था, यहाँ गया वापस ले लिया. Okay, so I'll go to that line, press enter, you will get it. Hell नहीं था, hello था बाबा, तो hello कर लिया अभी. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have some level of control over here. ये कहता है देखो previous history. Can you see that? Previous history shell में. Next history, अभी next तो कुछ है नहीं. Previous history था. तो restart the shell. View last restart. There are some options which have been given over here. Debugger है. Debugger will learn later. Configure हमने देखा था. Okay, there is some level of history that it can really manage. Okay, so let's now jump on to the concept of splitting a string. So what we had seen in the presentation, there was a string in which there were names of 4 players. Okay, and this happens to be the players of my generation. So let me take a string which contains my favorite cricketers, suppose. So we have these 4 players. But now, if I actually go on to count, it will take it as one string, Anil Sachin. So if I go to print, if I say print string, it will just print entire thing. But I wanted to print it as Anil, Sachin, Saurav, Rahul, kind of thing, separately print kara tha. So we say, sir, print mein, string mein, comma, separator is equal to comma de do. So even if I give separator is equal to comma, ek bhi comma nahi aa raha hai. Normally what would happen is, अगर मैं string ऐसे कुछ दे देता, suppose if this was, watch it very carefully, अगर मैंने दिया होता एक string था अनिल, दूसरा था suppose सुनील, और तीसरा था suppose जयनील. These are 3 strings. Okay, and if I print it, ये ऐसे आ रहा है. I wanted to give space in between, तो space तो by default आ रहा है, तो इस comma चाहिए था. I could just say separator is equal to comma. अब देखो अनिल कॉमा सुनील कॉमा जयनील, आप कहते हैं कॉमा के बाद एक स्पेस भी चाहिए, तो यहाँ स्पेस डालो, आगे अनिल कॉमा सुनील कॉमा जयनील. बट दैट्स नॉट हैपनिंग विद दिस, बिकॉज दिस इज वन स्ट्रिंग कंटेनिंग 4 वर्ड्स एंड आई वांट टू स्प्लिट द स्ट्रिंग इनटू 4 डिफरेंट स्ट्रिंग्स. जहां कहीं कॉमा है वहां मुझे स्प्लिट, जहां कहीं स्पेस है वहां मुझे स्प्लिट करना है. तो हियर इफ आई एम एक्चुअली प्रिंटिंग द ओरिजिनल स्ट्रिंग, इट इज प्रिंटिंग द स्ट्रिंग एज इट इज. So I want to split the string. So how do I split the string? I could just say print string split. So split किया तो 4 अलग string आ गए. Anil, Sachin, Saurav, Rahul. These are 4 different strings. I can just check length of it. Length of string. Just a minute. Here it says 4 अलग string आ गए. It did not give me the length of the entire string. Had I said length of string, it would have given me 24. यानी अनिल स्पेस सचिन सौरव, सचिन स्पेस सौरव स्पेस राहुल, इसका जो टोटल लेंथ है वो दे रहा था. अब जब मैंने इसे स्प्लिट किया तो कह रहा है आपके 4 अलग स्ट्रिंग्स है. एक है अनिल, सचिन, सौरव, राहुल, और एक लिस्ट बन चुका है. और लिस्ट में का पहला नाम कौन है? अनिल है. तो व्हाट आई कुड डू इज आई कुड से नेम्स इज इक्वल टू स्ट्रिंग डॉट स्प्लिट, SPLIT स्प्लिट. मैंने स्प्लिट कर लिया. And now if I say names, ये चारों नाम प्रिंट कर रहा है, तो I could just say names of 0 अनिल आ गया, names of 1 सुनील आ गया, सचिन आ गया, names of 2 सौरव आ गया, names of 3 राहुल आ गया. It has split one name string into 4 different strings. जहाँ कहीं स्पेस था वहां स्प्लिट कर लिया. Yeah, somebody had a question?
But what if we add that slash and
कहाँ ऐड करेंगे कहाँ ऐड करेंगे स्लैश वेयर इज कॉमा okay, let's do that. Suppose if this is your string and you say print string comma separator is equal to slash n, this is what you're saying. कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ेगा, nothing. सेपरेटर के लिए दो स्ट्रिंग तो चाहिए थे, यहाँ एक ही स्ट्रिंग है बिकॉज योर स्ट्रिंग कंटेन्स अनिल सचिन सौरव राहुल. अब स्प्लिट करके जब प्रिंट करेंगे देन आई कैन एक्चुअली वी कैन हैव सम काइंड ऑफ डिफरेंस, बट हियर इट विल नॉट हैव एनी डिफरेंस. तो आपने कहा ये स्ट्रिंग है तो एक स्ट्रिंग प्रिंट हो गया, उसके बाद न्यू लाइन. वैसे भी सेपरेटर में स्पेस तो था ही, बट यहाँ कोई एक से ज्यादा स्ट्रिंग है ही नहीं. हाँ, इट कुड मेक अ डिफरेंस. सपोज मेरे पास प्रिंट कर रहा था मैं प्रिंट सचिन कॉमा सौरव कॉमा राहुल. तो ये तीन थे, बाय डिफॉल्ट स्पेस आ गया. स्पेस की जगह आई कुड गिव कॉमा सेपरेटर इज इक्वल टू कॉमा. ओके, यहाँ कॉमा आ गया. यहाँ अगर मैं न्यू लाइन देता हूँ तो ये तीनों नेक्स्ट लाइन पे जरूर आ जाएंगे सचिन सौरभ. बट देन इन आवर केस देयर इज ओनली वन स्ट्रिंग कंटेनिंग 4 नेम्स. तो वहां आपने उसे क्या दिया है उसे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला. सेपरेटर स्लैश एन दिया है क्या दिया है, बिकॉज देयर इज ओनली वन स्ट्रिंग कॉल्ड एज सचिन अनिल सौरभ राहुल. दैट्स वन स्ट्रिंग. दिस इज वन string. So I need to split it into parts. So once I split into parts, then I have one list, and from the list I can take one element at a time. That's my choice. But what you'll get is a list. So when you split a string, you get a list of strings. You get a list of strings. So in this case, when I said names is equal to string dot split, and if I type in names, you got 4 different names. But if I said type of names कहता है लिस्ट है, that means split function of string class returns a list of names, a list of strings separated by spaces. यानी जहाँ space था वहाँ split किया. Is it necessary that we have to split a string always at spaces? That would rather create a problem. कैसे? Look at this. Suppose I had a player list. This time around, the player list was something like Anil Kumble, Sachin Saurav, Rahul Ganguly. Anil Kumble, Saurav Ganguly, name and last name and first name and last name. Sachin Rahul is separate. Now, if I would go to split this string, and how many names you would like to have really in this case?
4.
4 you would like to have. So let's see length of names. You got 4. But let's see which are those names. Names of 0 में आ गया अनिल. Names of 1 में आ गया कुंबे सचिन. सचिन तो कुंबे कहाँ है? तो names of 1 में we got अनिल. Okay. Names of 1 में we got अनिल. Names of 1 में we are getting Sachin. So we have you lost Kumbe? Okay. Let's do it once again. Okay, player list. I did a mistake. I'll say names is equal to player list dot, इसे स्प्लिट करना है. अब देखते हैं नेम्स ऑफ 0 में आ गया अनिल. नेम्स ऑफ 1 में देखो तो क्या आ रहा है? कुंबे कॉमा कुंबे कॉमा, सिर्फ कुंबे चाहिए था. अरे अनिल कुंबे एक चाहिए था. नेम्स ऑफ 2 में क्या आ गया? हियर यू विल हैव समथिंग इंटरेस्टिंग. यहाँ नेम्स ऑफ 2 में आ जाता है अभी सचिन कॉमा. नेम्स ऑफ 3 में क्या आ गया? 3 में आ गया सौरव. नेम्स ऑफ 4 में क्या आ गया? गांगुली. नेम्स ऑफ 5 में क्या आ गया? अरे यानी टोटल कितने आ गए? तो लेंथ ऑफ नेम्स चेक करोगे तो 6. अरे यहाँ तो 4 ही नाम थे. अनिल कुंबे एक नाम था, सचिन एक नाम था, सौरव गांगुली एक नाम था, राहुल एक नाम था. यानी स्प्लिट हमें जहाँ कॉमा है वहां स्प्लिट करना था. तो इन दैट केस आई कुड जस्ट से split where comma is found. So split where comma is found. So if I had done this, then it will get it right way. So if I now say print names, watch it. Anil Kumble एक है, सचिन दूसरा है, सौरव गांगुली तीसरा है और राहुल is last. So we can give the character based on which you would like to split. कहाँ आपको split करना है. But you would also notice अनिल कुंबले आ गया है, सचिन के पहले एक स्पेस है, सौरव के पहले एक स्पेस है, राहुल के पहले एक स्पेस है. So I don't want those spaces. तो मैं कहता हूँ जहाँ स्पेस और कॉमा दोनों आ जाए ना वहां स्प्लिट करे. तो मैंने ऐसे स्प्लिट किया. Now you'll have proper one. अनिल कुंबले, सचिन, सौरव गांगुली, राहुल without spaces. See the difference हो यार. यहाँ कॉमा स्पेस सौरव गांगुली था, स्पेस राहुल था. अब ऐसा नहीं है, राहुल है. That means I said split where comma and a space is found. तो अपने ओरिजिनल लिस्ट में कॉमा एंड स्पेस कहाँ है? यहाँ है, यहाँ है और यहाँ है. तो accordingly the splits it has correctly done. But you could do split at any character. Means I could say split at A. You'll get some weird result. But मेरी मर्जी एक पे स्प्लिट करने पर. तो अगर मैं प्रिंट करूंगा, देखो कैसे हो गया. अनिल कुंबले एस, एस ए के बाद आ गया सचिन ना, तो अचिन. सौरव का इसमें एस ए है, एस आ गया, एस ए यू आर ए वी गया. गांगुली में जी ए है, ए जहां जहां है, राहुल में ए यहाँ है, तो जहां जहां ए है वहां स्प्लिट हुआ है. तो you could specify what is the character where you would like to split. So let's come to the player list once again. So this is my player list. I say okay, उसे दो ही parts में split करो. Oh, that's also possible. So I'm going to say split at this, but I want maximum only 2 splits. 2 splits मतलब 3 strings आ जाएंगे. So let's print this string, print names. 2 मतलब 3 आ गए. कौन सा आ गया? पहला अनिल कुंबले एक आ गया, सचिन दूसरा है, और तीसरा सौरव गांगुली राहुल है. ये पूरा तीसरा है. How do I cross check that? I can just say length of names, that's a list. कहता है 3 ही इसमें. तो जब मैं 2 स्प्लिट करता हूँ तो 3 बन जाएंगे, 3 किया तो 4 बन जाएंगे, and so on. अगर if this 2 becomes confusing for you, तो you can just say over here max splits is equal to so and so. Max split split. Oh, I misspelled it. Max split लिखना है, splits नहीं. Max split. S निकाल देता हूँ. It has worked. Now if I check length, कहता 3 है. कौन से वो 3 है? अनिल कुंबले एक है, सचिन दूसरा है, सौरव गांगुली राहुल तीसरा है. So that's how you could go ahead splitting the strings. So that's a very powerful function called a split. There is one more powerful aspect which is associated with that, which I'm not touching up right now. That's what makes strings operations in Python very, very, what do you say, strong. That's support for regular expressions as well. But I'm not talking about the concept of regular expression right away, because we have to yet learn at the basic concepts of string, and later we'll come across the concept of regular expressions. Regular expressions identify patterns, and based on some kind of recurring pattern, you can carry out various operations. So it's a very powerful concept in any programming language. The bad part of this concept of regular expression is in every language, the purpose may be the same, but the way of using it changes from language to language, and that makes it a bit more challenging to use concept of regular expressions. But have you all understood this concept of split, what we have just now seen? Quick feedback. All of you are supposed to turn on your cameras.
Sir, I have a question.
बोलिए.
Sir, after splitting a string, like if we split the string with space or with comma, so it is returning the result comma separated. So delimiter, the list which is returned, the delimiter is comma. So can we change that?
Yeah, we did so, no? Then a delimiter
No,
is.
I'm the result which is returning after splitting, like Anil, comma, then Sachin, comma. So instead of comma, can we change the result with some other delimiter?
Yeah, that was just the basic things. So that shouldn't be much of a difficulty. But for that, we haven't yet seen the actual concepts. So that's quite easy. Suppose what you are saying is, ये comma की बात कर रहा है?
Yes.
Oh no. This is a list. In list, it is just a default list that has got printed. There are better ways to print a list wherein you may not have this particular comma. I could just say for name Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but we are yet to see that concept, so I'm not just talking about it right now. तो अगर आपको हर एक नाम अलग लाइन पे चाहिए था, तो I could just have said this, and then I could have repeated my statement.
No,
We don't-
I just wanted to change the delimiter, not on a new line.
Okay, delimiter
So
for display
instead
purpose.
of comma,
Display
yes.
purpose, huh? So that also I could do. I could just say comma, set, comma, and क्या चाहिए आपको डिलीमीटर?
Pipe.
पाइप चाहिए, ओके, ठीक है, आ गया?
Yes. Okay, so basically इसको for loop में चलाना पड़ेगा.
या कहीं तो करना पड़ेगा. You want me to do it in one line, I can finish it in one line as well. But जो आपको डिलीमीटर चाहिए, you can have it. This representation जो है ना, ये जो default representation जो आपको दिखाई दे रहा है, that's a default representation of a list. There you cannot make a change. So since you cannot make a change, you will have to do your way. आपको जैसा आपको चाहिए वैसा आप आउटपुट ला सकते हैं. That shouldn't be much of a difficulty.
Okay.
Okay. And there are
Sir,
shorter ways.
Sir, does it randomly decide where to split the string? Like
No,
in
no, never. Yeah, इतनी देर क्या देखा हमने? By default, it splits the string where space is found. यहाँ स्पेस था जहाँ स्प्लिट किया. स्प्लिट के अलावा अगर आपको चाहिए, देखो यहाँ अनिल कुंबे में था, तो नेम्स ऑफ जीरो में अनिल आ गया, दूसरी जगह कुंबे आ गया. कुंबे क्यों आ गया? बिकॉज कुंबे कॉमा के बाद एक स्पेस था. तो बाय डिफॉल्ट इट स्प्लिट्स स्ट्रिंग एट स्पेस, एंड यू वांट टू स्पेसिफाई कहाँ स्प्लिट करना है, तो आपको आपका स्प्लिट कैरेक्टर देना है, वेयर टू स्प्लिट द स्ट्रिंग, डिलिमीटर.
sir, in the end, it put Saurav Ganguly and Rahul together.
अरे
In,
बिकॉज
when
मैंने
you
यहाँ
made
मैक्स स्प्लिट 2 लिखा था.
Yes, sir. So can it make Anil Kumble, Sachin one, and Saurav Ganguly separate and Rahul separate?
या बाय डिफॉल्ट तो वही करेगा ना. ये देखो, अगर मैंने मैक्स स्प्लिट नहीं दिया, या मैक्स स्प्लिट का वैल्यू -1 दे दिया, या नहीं लिखा, तो सही करेगा ना.
Sir, it groups randomly.
कहाँ रैंडमली ग्रुप किया? मैंने कहा
Sir,
कॉमा अंडरस्कोर पे स्प्लिट करो. देखो, एक अनिल कुंबले आ गया, फिर सचिन आ गया, फिर सौरव गांगुली आ गया, फिर राहुल आ गया. कहाँ रैंडमली किया?
sir, when you put that limit to you made it 2.
हाँ,
After
मैं यहाँ
that
मैक्स,
it, sir, after that it made Saurav Ganguly and Rahul one group.
ये देखा,
Sachin
-1
one.
कर लिया मैंने, आ गया, वही आ जाएगा. आ गया, -1 लिखो स्प्लिट. 2 करने पर क्या हो रहा है, आप 2 बार स्ट्रिंग को डिवाइड करोगे, तो बाकी सारा तीसरे स्ट्रिंग में आएगा ना.
Okay.
मैक्स स्प्लिट अगर आपने 2 कहा, तो 2 ही बार डिवाइड करेगा, तो 2 बार डिवाइड करेगा तो 3 स्ट्रिंग आने वाले, पहला, दूसरा, और रेस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स इन तीसरा स्ट्रिंग.
Okay, so it starts from the left while
या स्प्लिटिंग
okay.
स्टार्ट सिंपल.
सर
Yes,
अगर
please.
मैक्स स्प्लिट ज्यादा रहा
कितना
सेपरेटर के अकाउंट से,
क्या
क्या
ज्यादा
होगा?
मतलब क्या? इसके एग्जांपल में बोलिए, क्या लिखूं?
जैसे यहाँ पे कितने कॉमा है, यहाँ पे 3 कॉमा है, तो अपना मैक्स स्प्लिट जाकर
100 लिखा,
2 या हाँ,
कोई
तो
फर्क
क्या
नहीं
होगा?
पड़ता, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
तो वो स्प्लिट किस बेसिस पे?
स्ट्रिंग के आगे तो स्प्लिट नहीं कर सकता है.
हाँ
द
हाँ,
बेसिस
ओके
फॉर
ओके.
स्प्लिटिंग इज कॉमा अंडरस्कोर. ओके, तो यू कैन स्पेसिफाई मैक्सिमम स्प्लिट, बट इट कैनॉट गो बियॉन्ड व्हाट द स्ट्रिंग कंटेन्स.
यस.
स्ट्रिंग में पॉसिबल यहाँ तीन ही स्प्लिट्स पॉसिबल थे.
Sir, can you split
-1 लिखना और
entire
100
name?
लिखना एक ही बात है. हाँ,
Can
Sir,
you split
max-
entire name?
कैन बी
Can you split entire name?
लाइक,
Sir, can you remove that entire Anil Kumble or Sachin?
या वी कैन. तो वो स्प्लिटिंग नहीं हुआ. स्प्लिटिंग मतलब रिपीटिंग चाहिए कुछ. तो मैंने स्प्लिट अनिल कुंबे पे कहा, तो अनिल कुंबे पे स्प्लिट करेगा, उसमें क्या? या सचिन कहा तो सचिन स्प्लिट करेगा, तो एक ही सचिन है, तो 2 स्ट्रिंग आ जाएंगे आपके. ये आपका सचिन है. अब अगर मैं नेम प्रिंट करता हूँ, 2 ही स्ट्रिंग्स आ जाएंगे, एक अनिल कुंबे और दूसरा सौरव गांगुली राहुल.
Okay, sir.
आप किसी भी पैटर्न पे स्प्लिट कर सकते हो. 2 हो गया अभी. एक में अनिल कुंबे आ गया, दूसरे में सौरव गांगुली राहुल आ गया. ये एक आ गया, और ये पूरा का पूरा दूसरा आ गया. तो कॉमा हो, ए हो, that is just a character based on which you would like to split. So that's totally your choice. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
तो स्प्लिट में आपको दो चीजें हैं, डिलीमीटर देना है और आपको कितने स्प्लिट चाहिए वो बताना है। Now let's do something more. Suppose I have a string or I have a list of names. I have a list of names. जैसे सपोज यहाँ मेरे पास एक लिस्ट है कॉल्ड एज डेज, तो डेज को मैंने कहा डेज इज इक्वल टू, और ये मेरे पास एक लिस्ट है, मैंने कहा मंडे कॉमा ट्यूजडे कॉमा वेडनेसडे कॉमा थर्सडे कॉमा फ्राइडे कॉमा सैटरडे कॉमा संडे। ये ऐसी मेरी लिस्ट है। If I print these days, these are like multiple words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. If I say length of days, okay, 7 है। इन सबको join करके I want to create one string. That's also possible. Other way around. So in that case, what I could do is, I could just say weekdays is equal to days dot join. यानी मैंने इसको ज्वाइन करना है। बट इफ आई वांट टू ज्वाइन, ऑन व्हाट बेसिस आई वुड लाइक टू ज्वाइन। ओके, तो मुझे डेज को ज्वाइन करना है। क्या हर एक स्ट्रिंग के बाद क्या चाहिए? सपोज मुझे एक एरो चाहिए, तो आई कैन जस्ट से एरो, लाइक एरो लेके ज्वाइन करो ऑल द एलिमेंट्स इन दिस डेज। तो अभी अगर वीक डेज प्रिंट करके देखोगे तो जहाँ स्प्लिट कर सकते हैं वहाँ ज्वाइन भी कर सकते हैं। तो आ गया मंडे एरो, ट्यूसडे एरो, वेडनेसडे एरो, थर्सडे एरो, फ्राइडे एरो, सैटरडे। तो देयर आर वेज टू डू दैट। हियर आई गो। आपका थोड़ी देर पहले जो पाइप का एक प्रॉब्लम था वो भी सॉल्व कर सकते थे। तो आपको पाइप चाहिए था, तो मैं कहता पाइप, पाइप के पहले और बाद में आपने कहा ना सर लूप यूज करना होगा क्या शंतनु? तो ये देखिएगा प्रिंट वीकडेज, ऐसा कुछ चाहिए था आपको? यानी आपका प्लेयर लिस्ट था थोड़ी देर पहले, दिस वाज द वन लिस्ट, तो वी सेड प्लेयर लिस्ट डॉट स्प्लिट। ये ऐसा आ गया आपके सर, वो कॉमा नहीं चाहिए था, वो वहां मुझे पाइप चाहिए था। ओके, तो इवन इफ आई सेड सपोज इसी को मैं प्रिंट भी कर देता, तो इन पाइथन में यू हैव टू चेनिंग कॉन्सेप्ट यूज कर सकते हैं। देखो कैसे, मैंने कहा ये फिर भी आपका वो रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल नहीं हो रहा, कॉमा आ रहा है, तो आप इसे ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं। कैसे ज्वाइन करना है? आपको पाइप डाल के ज्वाइन करना है। तो मैं कहूँगा वॉच इट, ये पाइप डॉट ज्वाइन प्लेयर लिस्ट डॉट स्प्लिट एक लिस्ट देगा, उसके अंदर के एलिमेंट्स को हम लोग ज्वाइन करेंगे। और मैं चाहता हूँ आगे पीछे एक स्पेस भी आ जाए, एक स्पेस आ गया आपका जो रिक्वायरमेंट था।
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are ways to achieve the things. Okay, one way was using a loop and this is shorter way to
Because
do it.
सर यहाँ पे अगर for loop यूज करेंगे तो परफॉर्मेंस डाउन होगा ना।
For loop से कर सकते थे ना, बट फिर वहां
मतलब
फिर
अगर
ज्वाइन
नंबर
करने की
ऑफ
जरूरत, ज्वाइन
अगर
करने की जरूरत नहीं थी।
नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट ज्यादा होंगे तो फिर वो उतना देर तक for loop चलेगा ना।
चलता है ना फॉर लूप विल, पाइथन में फॉर लूप इज ऑटोमेटिक लूप, तो उसमें 1,00,000 एलिमेंट्स हो तो भी काम करेगा। सर नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स से कोई मतलब नहीं है। There's a concept of iterator. It iterates from first to the second to the third. So how many elements are there? That doesn't really matter. हाँ, आपको चाहिए कि 10 के बाद नेक्स्ट लाइन पे आ जाए, then you have to take some extra efforts. Otherwise लाइन में प्रिंट ही होना है तो there is no such problem. But this join can also do the magic for you. If you have a list, तो list dot join करते हुए हम लोग join कर सकते हैं। Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
हाँ,
sir, so days नावाचा व्हेरिएबल तो array,
pardon?
days नावाचा व्हेरिएबल आहे ना जो,
हाँ, लिस्ट
तो
है,
array आहे का?
लिस्ट है,
लिस्ट आहे.
लिस्ट है। तो ये प्लेयर लिस्ट भी एक लिस्ट है, देखना है आपको। तो आपके पास एक फंक्शन है कॉल्ड एज टाइप प्लेयर लिस्ट। हाँ, प्लेयर लिस्ट स्ट्रिंग था, प्लेयर लिस्ट ने जो रिटर्न किया वो लिस्ट था। देखो प्लेयर लिस्ट डॉट स्प्लिट ये अभी लिस्ट आ जाएगा. ओके, सो एक प्लेयर लिस्ट एक स्ट्रिंग था, उसको जब आप स्प्लिट करते हैं तो एक लिस्ट आ जाता है. व्हाट इज हैड ए लिस्ट. ओके, वैसे डेज हमारे लिए वीकडेज स्ट्रिंग है बट डेज लिस्ट था. तो इफ आई से टाइप ऑफ डेज लिस्ट था. इज दैट ओके?
Yes, sir.
List था. Okay. Now sometimes it so happens you have a string in which there is some confidential data, like something like this. Account number 345 was used today. I transferred rupees 1 lakh from account 2345 to your account. ऐसे कोई स्ट्रिंग. अभी इसमें है ना वो 2345 that was a confidential account number. I should not reveal this number to anybody. So all the occurrence of that word 2345 that was my account number should be masked, should be hidden from you. So what I could do, I could create a mask string. Name could be is equal to, I say string dot replace, correct? क्या replace करो 2345 को और replace करो with x इतने सारे x से replace करो. And now if I print the actual string which was having that letter 2345, okay, but if I now print the mask string, account number XXXS was used today. I transferred 10,000 from account XXXS to your account. So it has been masked, it has been hidden. So we can use the function called as replace. So all occurrence of 2345 have been replaced with these many number of characters. Your choice, ज़्यादा कम कुछ भी दे सकते थे आप. तो अगर मैं यहाँ replace करते समय सिर्फ 3x देता हूँ या 2x देता हूँ, that's also my choice. किसी भी से replace कर सकते हैं. और या 2 dash देता हूँ, x ही चाहिए ऐसा कुछ नहीं. I could just say 2 dash. And if I print a string, the account number 2 dash was used today, I transferred the 10,000 from account dash dash to your account. So we can use function called as the replace to get the. तो हमने 2 additional function देखे, एक join देखा और एक replace देखा. Have you understood this? Good feedback, everybody. ये पहला वाला feedback है या अभी feedback है? Okay, so we are now on the verge of completing our basic discussion with concept of strings. Okay, because last time हमने slicing और grabbing देखा, उसके पहले we saw some functions like is digit देखा, is alpha देखा, and आज देखे वो starts with, ends with, and so on. There are some additional functions, methods, functions which are not methods. Now there is a difference between method and functions. Functions are free string, जैसे length जो मैं use कर रहा था. लेंथ ऑफ स्ट्रिंग भी फाइंड कर सकता हूँ, लेंथ ऑफ लिस्ट भी फाइंड कर सकता हूँ, किसी भी कलेक्शन का लेंथ आप फाइंड कर सकते हैं. तो वो हो गया लेंथ. आई फॉरगॉट टू हैव अ कप ऑफ टी. ठंडी हो गई चाय. So we could find length of anything. So length is a function, whereas is alpha, is upper, is lower, these are methods. Because they are associated with the string class, string के साथ associated. यानी something dot something कहोगे तो वो method होगा, और जो freely print बाहर से directly use कर सकते हैं, उसके लिए something dot print कहने की जरूरत नहीं है. So these are functions. So let's explore some more functions. Okay, so let me just take you some very interesting functions which are Okay. Now pay attention. These are simple but very important. Few minutes back, I told you there's nothing as ASCII when it comes to Python. We have Unicode values. So for every character, there is a code which is associated. So अगर मैं चाहता था, I would like to know the code for some character. So how do I know? So there is a character or A, English A. So I want to know what's the code for character A. So I can just say ORD of A. ORD will give the value for that particular character. It says the code of A is 97. So like A hai, so I can see for B as well. So B 98 hai. So order mein aayenge 97, 98, 99 and so on. If I take uppercase A, that's a different character. इसका code 65 है. अगर मैंने uppercase B लिया, तो इसका code 66 है. Likewise, if I take uppercase Z, ये 90 है. तो आपको कुछ codes याद रखने होंगे. So please note some codes. Uppercase A 65, uppercase Z 90. Note करके रखो. Because ये जानकारी बहुत काम में आएगी in different languages. And हर एक language में वही रहेगा. Uppercase A 65. Uppercase Z 90, lowercase a 97, uppercase lowercase z will be 122. Let's check. Lowercase z 122, lowercase z 122. Okay. और क्या important है हमारे लिए और important है space. तो space का code 32. Let's check 32. फिर हमारे लिए एंटर साइन है /n. तो जो अपना /n है इसका कोड क्या है? तो इसका कोड 10 है. इसका कोड 10 है. फिर हमारे पास /t है, यानी जिसे हम लोग टैब कहते हैं, टैब स्पेस. इसका कोड 9 है. इसका कोड 9 है. तो /n हो गया, /t हो गया, एक /n. दीज आर वन दैट यू हैव टू मेमोराइज. इतने याद रखोगे ना तो आधे से ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगा. यानी टैब के लिए 9, स्पेस के लिए 32, एंटर के लिए 10, स्मॉल ए का 97, स्मॉल जेड का 122, अपर केस ए का 65, स्मॉल केस जेड का 90. Just remember this, and because English letters are letters that we use most often, but that does not mean if we are working language like C or C++ where only English is supported, other characters are not supported. That's not the case. Python from day one supports Unicode characters. So even if there are Devanagari characters, they will also be supported. तो मुझे चाहिए था 4 का कोड क्या है. तो 4 का कोड क्या है? तो लो 2 3 4 7 4 का कोड है. अरे मुझे अल्फा बीटा थीटा ओमेगा साई फाई सबके कोड रहेंगे. तो अगर मैं एक कोड देखता हूँ तो एवरी सिंबल विल हैव अ कोड. तो ऐसा कोई कोड नहीं, कैरेक्टर नहीं है जिसका कोई कोड नहीं है. इट विल ऑलवेज हैव अ कोड. ओके, सो दैट वाज अबाउट those functions like ORD. So ORD gives you the value or the code for any symbol that we come across. Oh, one more thing I forgot to tell you. और एक चीज याद रखना है, और कुछ याद रखना है. कौन से याद रखना है? कोड ऑफ जीरो याद रखना है. कोड ऑफ जीरो जो है वो 40s में आता है. तो ये क्या आता है? लेट्स हैव अ लुक एट इट. 48 है क्या? तो जीरो का कोड 48 है. सो कैरेक्टर जीरो का कोड 48 है और कैरेक्टर 9 का कोड 55 56 क्या आता है देखते हैं. 57 है. तो ये एक याद रखो. तो there is a character 0, there is a character 9, there is a digit 0 and there is 0 is 9, digit 9. तो हम लोग character 0 और character 9 की बात करें. 0 याद रखो सिर्फ, बाकी तो याद रह जाएगा. because 0 अगर 48 है तो 49 50 51 52 53 करते हुए तो 9 तक जाना है. तो आपको Z याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. अपर के से और स्मॉल के से याद रखो. Z तो याद ही रह जाएगा बिकॉज आगे 25 26 कैरेक्टर जितने इंग्लिश में उतने ऐड करो, यू विल गेट इट. तो character 0 also has a code that is 48. That's not for digit 0. Digit 0 is a different way to store. Character 0 का कोड क्या है? तो 48 है. तो 49 क्या रहेगा? 1 रहेगा. 42 क्या? 49. 50 क्या रहेगा? तो 3 रहेगा. And so on. Let's check. तो हमने लिया 3 का कोड क्या है? तो 51. कैसे? 48 0 हो गया, 49 1 हो गया, 50 2 हो गया, तो 51 3 हो गया. तो 0 के आगे काउंट करते जाओ, 48 के आगे. That's how you can get code of any character. So these are some codes that you will have to memorize. So this gives you code for any other Tamil character that you are aware of. वो लेते तो उसका भी character का code आ जाता. there are a lot of Russian characters that we have, and if you take some Russian character, उसके अंदर का भी कोड देखना शुरू करें तो आपकी मर्जी. किसी all languages are supported in Python. Okay. Other way around. If I have a character and I want to know its code, if I have a code and I want to know the character corresponding to it, oh, that's also possible. And for that, we have another function called as CHR. So if I now say CHR of, like right now we saw 2347 was 4, correct? So 2374 है, 2347 है, तो हम जानना चाहेंगे कि 2348 क्या है. तो 2348 क्या है? तो ब है. तो ये फ है 2347, तो 2348, तो CHR में आप, if you give the code, it will give the corresponding character. But this code can be given in any format. That means I can give it in decimal format, the way I have done it. और 2348 का ये जो आपका नंबर है, I could just say hex of 2348. ये क्या आ रहा है? 0x92c. So what I could do is, I could use 0892c as well. 0x92c. Okay. And अब देखते हैं ये क्या है. अरे वो वही है ब कैरेक्टर. अब इसका ऑक्टल इक्विवेलेंट क्या है? ऑक्टल इक्विवेलेंट ऑफ 2348. इसका ऑक्टल इक्विवेलेंट क्या है? 004454. Okay, so I could use CHR with octal as well. That means to CHR function, you can pass the argument in decimal format, you can pass the argument in hexadecimal format, you can pass the argument in octal format as well. तो भी वही है. You can pass the argument in binary format. तो अगर मैं जानना चाहता था binary equivalent of bin, binary equivalent of 2348 का binary equivalent क्या है, तो ये है. I could pass this as well over here. तो मेरी मर्जी ना, आप binary equivalent पास करो CHR को, नंबर ही है ना, irrespective represent binary format, hexadecimal format, octal format, किसी भी format में डालो, वो नंबर ही है. So if I run this, it stays a ब. That means 2348 is the code of ब in decimal format, whereas here it was in octal format, here it was in hexadecimal format, here it was in decimal format, here it is in binary format, and it's the same character ब. So we are getting ब. So have you understood these two functions called like ORD and CHR? शंतनु, क्या डाउट है? Okay. Now that we have seen this important concept, what just I forgot to talk about is operator which checks for the containment of something. So let me just give an example before we move to the next part. Suppose I have a string. It says S is equal to some string. She is very smart as a string. I want to know, does this particular string called as she is very smart contains the word is? That is what I'm checking. I can just say s dot. I don't know, does it contain? So function तो नहीं मेरे पास ऐसा कोई. Because if I say s dot, if I look at this, capitalize है, case fold है, count है, ends with है, find है, format map है, alpha num है, all these functions we can get to see क्या functions possible, and we have seen almost all of them. ये सारे functions है, and we have seen almost all of them.
How to access it?
अच्छा, how to access? कोई भी ऑब्जेक्ट ले लिया आपने, डॉट और फिर कंट्रोल स्पेस डालो, प्रेस करो, तो इट विल गिव द लिस्ट. यानी याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं, कंट्रोल स्पेस प्रेस किया मैंने, दैट मींस ये डॉट लिखा मैंने, एंड आई डोंट रिमेंबर द फंक्शन नेम, याद नहीं आ रहा है, तो कंट्रोल स्पेस, एंड आई चेक्ड इट आउट. ये ऐसे स्क्रॉल कर सकते हैं, कंट्रोल स्पेस. ये आईडी में कर सकता है, सिर्फ आईडी में. तो ऐसा तो कुछ है नहीं, बट आई वांट टू चेक. सो देयर इज एन ऑपरेटर कॉल्ड एज इन. व्हाट आई कैन डू इज I'll say print I'll say is in s. s में in है क्या? हाँ है. yes में boy है क्या? false. s में is there a word called as she? false कहता है, अरे but था ना she में SHE, अरे but that is case sensitive. She in S, yes, that word she is present in S. So there is an operator called as in. Likewise, there is another operator called as not in. Like, let's take another way. I say my grocery list. So GRO. ये मेरे grocery item है. My wife has asked me to get rice, wheat, bajra. So these are things that she has. Double को 2 बार हो गया. These are 2-3 things that she has asked me to get. So I want to know whether she has asked me to get jar. So I'll say is name. I'll say JOWAR, jar in grocery. Is that false? Rice in grocery. Is that true? Ulta. Jar not in grocery. Is that true? And rice not in grocery. False. So we have 2 more operators. These are operators. In and not in are operators, whereas others were functions or methods. Okay. So have you understood this operator called as in and not in? It is just used to check the membership. Is this present inside it or is not present inside it?
Sir, only these 2 operators are there.
No, there are some operators that can be used with strings, and other operators I had given you a demonstration. So let me just do a quick recap about the other operators that we can use with string. दूसरा था, suppose if I have Monica plus am I spelling it right?
Yes.
Okay. So Monica plus Shrivankar. So A plus हो गया. So plus is one operator that works on strings that is used to concatenate. I could multiply. I could say Monica into 5. So Monica 5 times. So in, not in, plus, and into, these are operators that can be used with strings. Okay, plus for concatenation, star for repeating the string that many number of times, in for checking for existence of something, not in to know whether this is not present inside. So these are few operators that can work with strings. Okay, and this multiply plus we have already seen, so I did not give a demonstration. I just gave a demonstration of the one that I had missed out. क्या miss किया था मैंने? In and not in I had unfortunately forgot. So we have talked about in and not in as well. Is that right?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
what is the difference between function and method?
Functions are freestanding. जैसे मुझे print को call करना है, तो I don't require somebody to call it. I can directly type print and I can call it. But methods are present in context of some type. So I need that type name dot something. So जहाँ dot operator का इस्तेमाल करके किसी function को call करोगे, that means they are in the scope of that particular type of that particular class. So we require somebody to invoke that function. Dot operator की जरूरत है. तो जहाँ dot operator की जरूरत आएगी, वो function नहीं है, वो method है. वो function है. जहाँ बिना dot operator के आप उसे call करोगे, वो function है. Rather, if I want to give you a technical statement for it, methods are functions which have been defined within the scope of a class. यानी कोई type रहेगा, उसके अंदर कोई method define किया रहेगा, function define किया रहेगा, तो उस type के context में ही आप उसे call कर सकते हैं. That means I can call split method only with strings, यानी string dot split. और कोई तरीका नहीं split method को call करने का. But print, length, max, min, इनको आप कभी भी call करो. They are not binded to one type. I can say max of string. I can say max of list. I can say max of anything. So they are not bounded to any type. They are freestanding functions which can be called directly without that dot operator. So methods are functions which have been defined within the scope of a class. So to invoke them, I need that class or the object of the class, something dot something. A dot is alpha to check whether that string which is stored in A is a alphabetic or not. The string dot is alpha. So if I require that dot operator to invoke that particular function, then call it as a method. If I can call it directly, call it as a function.
Sir,
हाँ.
मेथड यूज करेल मॉड्यूल इंपोर्ट करावं लागतं.
काय
मेथड यूज करायला मॉड्यूल इंपोर्ट करावं लागतं.
नॉट नेसेसरी ना. स्ट्रिंग के लिए कहाँ मॉड्यूल किया है? स्ट्रिंग इनबिल्ट है तो डायरेक्टली कर सकते थे. For some you will have to import, not everywhere. Keyword के क्या हमने? I said import keyword and then I said keyword dot is identifier. Okay, but then not necessarily that. There are some standard modules which are by default available in the current namespace, and there are some modules which are a part of Python standard library, but we still have to import and then use it. The string is one which is inherently available. You don't have to take any extra effort. You can just start using string.
सर डॉटच्या अगोदर आयडेंटिफायर टाकावा लागतो ना?
अगर तो स्ट्रिंग तो ऑब्जेक्ट असेल कुठल्याही टाईपचा, स्ट्रिंग टाईपचा ऑब्जेक्ट असेल, लिस्ट टाईपचा ऑब्जेक्ट असेल, जो कुठली टाईप असेल त्याचा ऑब्जेक्ट असेल किंवा त्या टाईपचं नाव असेल, देयर विल बी सम आयडेंटिफायर, क्लास नेम, द टाईप नेम, data type name or the variable of that type, an object name before the dot on the left hand side, and on the right hand side is the method. But print के लिए किसी को कोई object वगैरह नहीं चाहिए, directly call, max directly call किया, min directly call किया. So min, max, length, जैसे हमने फाइंड किया था, ऐसे max of क्या था मेरा string, grocery T था, तो वैसे max की जगह ऐसे min of string, these are all functions. मैंने कहा length of grocery, $90, ये सारे फंक्शन मेथड फंक्शंस है. लेंथ की बात मैंने कहा min, max, length, मैंने कहा टाइप. ये जो पर्पल कलर में आ रहा है ना, ये कौन सा कलर है? पर्पल ही है ना? व्हाट इज दिस कलर? मैक्स, min, लेंथ.
सर पर्पल.
Yes, yes.
हाँ, ये पर्पल कलर में आ रहे, ये सारे फंक्शंस है. और मेथड कॉल करता हूँ मैं, जैसे
सर मेथड वाइट है.
ग्रोसरी डॉट इज, स्पेलिंग गलत हो गया क्या? या ये व्हाइट कलर में आ रहे, वो मेरे मेथड्स हैं. ओके, लाइकवाइज एटलीस्ट कलर में से आप आइडेंटिफाई कर पाएंगे, बट कलर से मत आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे, बिकॉज कलर आईडी है. आज हमेशा आपके पास आईडी होगा ऐसा कोई जरूरी नहीं है.
Sir, operators will be orange, no?
Pardon?
Operators are in orange color.
This color combination can change, but ये जब यहाँ दिखाई दे रहा, कोई जरूरी नहीं कि ऐसा आ जाए. There are various themes where the color combination can change. Okay, so don't note it down. वो note मत कीजिएगा, ये change हो सकता है, but अलग है. That is, so methods are functions which have been defined within the scope of a particular type. Functions are freestanding; they can be called directly. To call methods will require either the type name or the object of the type. Something dot something, something dot method. Function के लिए directly you can call a function. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's read more about, understand more about concept of strings. Strings that you use in our programs are all objects of class str. So let's cross check that. Are they all objects of class str? How can we check that? So when we create a string, say I create a string saying S is equal to India. S का type क्या है? I say type of S. ये था history यार. मैंने कहा था type of India. ये भी str. तो इसका data type क्या है? तो ये string type है. So by default, if I had said type of, not necessarily it has to be English, it could have been present in any language. Like if I had said type of avocado, avocado का type क्या है? ये भी तो string ही है. It may not be in English, but that's a string. That's also a string. So strings are what? Collection of Unicode characters are nothing but strings. Oh, but I'm saying collection of Unicode characters. So we also need to understand what this concept of Unicode is all about. Here we go. So all strings that we use in the programs are objects of class str. Textual data in Python is handled with string objects or strings. Strings are immutable sequence of Unicode code points. A definition of string. Strings are immutable. That means you cannot change. Sequence of Unicode code points. Unicode code points kya hai? We saw the code points by a function called as ORD. If I said ORD of A, I got it 97. ORD of Z, we got as 122, small case Z. Then we saw ORD of 4, that was 2, 3, 4, 7. B, 2, 3, 4, 8. That's the Unicode code point of that particular character. So let's understand a bit more about Unicodes before we go ahead. So watch a video carefully now. And those who are there for logic, we had already touched upon this concept. We'll just do it once again. Okay. So let me just share with the sound. Let me know if the sound is clear or not.
UTF-8 is perhaps the best hack, the best single thing that UTF-8.
Was it audible clearly?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Shall I play it now? Again?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is perhaps the best hack, the best single thing that's used that can be written down on the back of a napkin, and that's how it was put together. It was the first draft of UTF-8 was written on the back of a napkin in a diner, and it's just such an elegant hack that solves so many problems that I absolutely love it. Back in the 1960s, we had teleprinters. We had simple devices that you type a key and it sends some numbers and the same letter comes out the other side. But there needs to be a standard. So in the mid-1960s, America at least, settled on ASCII, which is the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. And it's a 7-bit binary system. So each letter you type in gets converted into 7 binary numbers and sent over the wire. Now that means you can have numbers from 0 to 127. They sort of move the first 32 for control codes and less important stuff for writing, things like go down a line or backspace. And then they made the rest characters. They added some numbers, some punctuation marks. They did a really clever thing, which is that they made A 65, which in binary, binary 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. In binary, 65 is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, which means that B is 66, which means you've got 2 in binary just here. C, 67, 3 in binary. So you can look at a 7-bit binary character and just knock off the first 2 digits and know what its position in the alphabet is. Even cleverer than that, they started lowercase 32 later, which means that lowercase a is 97, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. Anything that doesn't fit into that is probably a space, which conveniently will be all zeros, or some kind of punctuation mark. Brilliant, clever, wonderful, great way of doing things. And that became the standard, at least in the English-speaking world. As for the rest of the world, a few of them did versions of that, but you start getting into other alphabets, into languages that don't really use alphabets at all. They all came up with their own encoding, which is fine. And then along come computers. And over time, things change. We move to 8-bit computers. So we now have a whole extra number at the start. just to confuse matters, which means we can go to 256. We can have twice as many characters. And of course, everyone settled on the same standard for this because that would make perfect sense. No, none of them did. All the Nordic countries start putting Norwegian characters and Finnish characters in there. Japan just doesn't use ASCII at all. Japan goes and creates its own multi-byte encoding with more letters and more characters and more binary numbers going to each individual character. All these things are massively incompatible. Japan actually has 3 or 4 different encodings, all of which are completely incompatible with each other. So you send a document from one old school Japanese computer to another, it will come out so garbled that there is even a word in Japanese for garbled characters, which is, I'm probably mispronouncing this, but it's mojibakis. A bit of a nightmare, but it's not bad, because how often does someone in London have to send a document to a completely incompatible and unknown computer at another company in Japan? In those days, it's rare. You print it off and you faxed it. And then the World Wide Web hit, and we have a problem, because suddenly documents are being sent from all around the world all the time. So a thing is set up called the Unicode Consortium. And in what I can only describe as a miracle, over the last couple of decades, they have hammered out a standard. Unicode now have a list of more than 100,000 characters that covers everything you could possibly want to write in any language. English alphabet, Cyrillic alphabet, Arabic alphabet, Japanese, Chinese and Korean characters. What you have at the end is the Unicode Consortium assigning 100,000 plus characters to 100,000 numbers. They have not chosen binary digits, they've not chosen what that should be represented as. All they've said is that Arabic character there, that is number 5,700 something, and this linguistic symbol here, that's 10,000 something. I have to simplify massively here because there are about, of course, 5 or 6 incompatible ways to do this. But what the web has more or less settled on is something called UTF-8. There are a couple of problems with doing the obvious thing, which is saying, okay, we're going to 100,000, that's going to need, what? To be safe, that's going to need 32 binary digits to encode it. They encoded the English alphabet in exactly the same way as ASCII did. A is still 65. So if you have just a string of English text and you're encoding it at 32 bits per character, you're going to have about 27 zeros and then a few ones for every single character. That is incredibly wasteful. Suddenly, every English language text file takes 4 times the space on disk. So problem 1, you have to get rid of all the zeros in English text. Problem 2, there are lots of old computer systems that interpret 8 zeros in a row, a null, as this is the end of the string of characters. So if you ever send 8 zeros in a row, they just stop listening. They assume that the string has ended there and it gets cut off. So you can't have 8 zeros in a row anywhere. Okay? Problem number 3, it has to be backwards compatible. You have to be able to take this Unicode text and chuck it into something that only understands basic ASCII and have it more or less work for English text. UTF-8 solves all these problems, and it's just a wonderful hack. It starts by just taking ASCII. If you have something under 128 that can just be expressed as 7 digits, you put down a 0, and then you put the same numbers that you would otherwise. So let's have that A again. There we go. That's still A, that's still 65. That's still UTF-8 valid, and that's still ASCII valid. Brilliant. Okay, now let's say we're going above that. Now you need something that's going to work more or less for ASCII, or at least not break things, but still be understood. So what you do is you start by writing down 110. This means this is the start of a new character, and this character is going to be 2 bytes long. 2 ones, 2 bytes. A byte being 8 characters. And you say in this one, we're going to start it with 10, which means this is a continuation. And then all these blank spaces, of which you have 5 here and 6 here, you fill in the other numbers. And then when you're calculating it, you just take off those headers, and it understands just these as being whatever number that turns out to be. That's probably somewhere in the hundreds. That'll do you for the first 4,096 What about above that? Well, above that, you go 1, 1, 1, 0, meaning there are 3 bytes in this. 3 ones, 3 bytes, with 2 continuation bytes. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 16 spaces. You want to go above that? You can. The specification goes all the way to 1111110X, with this many continuation bytes after it. It's a neat hack that you can explain on the back of a napkin or a bit of paper. It's backwards compatible. It avoids waste. At no point will it ever send 8 zeros in a row. And really, really crucially, the one that made this win over every other system is that you can move backwards and forwards really easily. You do not have to have an index of where the characters start. If you are halfway through a string and you want to go back 1 character, you just look for the previous header. And that's it, and that works. And as of a few years ago, UTF-8 beat out ASCII and everything else as for the first time the dominant character encoding on the web. We don't have that mojibake that Japanese has. We have something that nearly works, and that is why it's the most beautiful hack that I can think of that is used around the world every second of every day.
Have you understood this? There's a detailed note about the same I have uploaded on our e-learning portal. That also you could watch or listen to or read. This is something you like it, you don't like it, whichever language you're working, you'll have to master it. Because today, when we develop applications, we write applications where we have to work with multiple languages. Gone are the days where you could work with only single language. You develop an application for Indian customer, and there are 25 different major languages that you'll have. So if it has to make some business sense for you, you'll have to have support for multiple languages as well. So as a Python programmer, it actually provides a very good support internally for the concept of strings, wherein we have to express the strings in different ways. So that would be our topic for the next discussion, where I'll give you an example of something called as byte strings. So we'll stop here today because I'm not in a position to finish with that topic right now. So with this introduction of Unicode, tomorrow when we will meet, we'll see as to how the strings are converted into bytes, how they are stored into bytes, and how we can again get those bytes being converted into characters. So those are the things that we are going to look into when we meet tomorrow. So that was all about today's session. So we'll stop early today, but when we meet tomorrow, we'll talk about byte string. So have you understood whatever has been discussed today? Quick feedback. Okay. Something that you could read about and come is this. So I'm just sharing a link with you all. There is one link I have shared with you all. And there is another small link. It will not take much time for you to complete, but do read. Don't blame me if you don't understand tomorrow's discussion. If you come without reading, you will definitely find it difficult. I'm just sharing. और एक सबसे बढ़िया article है, which I have posted on the e-learning portal as well. I'm posting it here as well. The third article is like everything that you need to know. So the title of the article itself goes something like this. Watch it. Article का title is absolute minimum. Every software developer positively must know about Unicode and character set. So if you really want to be a serious developer, this is something that you should read. Okay. Some things you will not understand out of it. Doesn't matter. But still, I would strongly suggest you to go through this particular article. Okay. And as he says, no excuses. So for developer, there has to be no excuses on reading this. So start with Wikipedia first, then go into the HubSpot article that I shared. And दो पर समझ में आने के बाद ये तीसरा देख लो. Do read these 3 articles and come ready for tomorrow's session. Because then I'll go underneath this. इसके पीछे क्या चलता है, that is what I'll discuss. And that you as a developer have to know. I can make Python appear very simple for you by skipping such topics. But then you will not be a complete developer. You will never know what is happening internally inside the machine. How is the system handling the data? So this is something that you need to read. So read this and come prepared for tomorrow's session. So thank you all for attending the session today. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye.